everyone, my name is Katie Stanfield, and this is the case of Leo and Elizabeth Facto versus Snuffy Pantages as heard by the Superior Court of New Jersey. Leo and Elizabeth Facto entered into a contract with Snuffy Pantages to hold a wedding reception at his banquet hall called Pantages Renaissance, which is located in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. The plaintiffs paid the total cost of the reception in advance, and that added up to $10,578. On Saturday, August 3rd, 2002, the reception started at 6 p.m. and was due to last until 11 p.m. The guests of the reception were being served appetizers and drinks and mingling when all of a sudden there was a power failure. That caused the air conditioning unit to shut off and all of the lights to go out, not even 45 minutes into the event. It was a very hot and humid evening, and needless to say, the 150 guests became very uncomfortable quickly. Because of no light and electricity and no way for them to provide their services, the Factos also lost out on the $6,000 paid for the bands, the $3,810 that was paid to the photographer, and $3,242.09 paid to the videographer, all which were hired by the Factos and weren't included in the prepaid amount for the reception. As if the night wasn't going bad enough, an altercation between a guest of the Factos and an employee of Pantages Renaissance caused the police to arrive around 9:30 p.m. With still an hour and a half left of the Facto reception. By 9:30, when the police arrived, the emergency lights had already went out, and candlelight was the only source of light. So Mr. Pantages requested that the police evacuate the Facto reception and also the 4 other receptions that were being held that night at Pantages Renaissance. Before the evacuation, Mr. Pantages did offer the Factos a rain check, but they declined. The plaintiffs claimed that Snuffy Pantages breached the contract and brought Pantages to court, seeking repayment of the amounts paid to the videographer, photographer, and band, plus the $10,578 that had already been prepaid for the reception itself. The Factos also contended a negligence claim. The case was heard before the Law Division of the Superior Court of New Jersey, which decided that the plaintiff's breach of contract claim was barred due to the force majeure clause that was included in the signed agreement. This specific clause read, quote, "Snuffies will be excused from performance under this contract if it is prevented from doing so by an act of God or other unforeseen events or circumstances." End quote. By law, force majeure is a clause in a contract in which parties specify certain events that will excuse non-performance. According to our textbook, a force majeure clause usually excludes non-performance caused by natural disasters like floods, tornadoes, and earthquakes, and modern clauses even excuse performance due to labor strikes and shortages of raw materials. The court determined that there was no evidence that Pantages Renaissance could have foreseen the power outage, even though it was a very hot day, and that the banquet hall did not act negligently. The trial court dismissed the plaintiff's contract and negligence claims. The Factos disagreed and appealed the dismissal, taking the case to the Appellate Division of the Superior Court of New Jersey. The plaintiffs again failed to present any sort of evidence or support that the banquet hall was negligent. Therefore, the appellate court agreed with the trial court's decision that the banquet hall was not able to provide the wedding reception only due to the unavoidable power failure. Because of these unforeseen circumstances, Pantages Renaissance's failure to perform the reception did not constitute a breach of contract. However, according to the second restatement of contracts 237, 239, and 267, where one party to a contract is excused from performance as a result of an unforeseen event that makes performance impracticable, the other party is also generally excused from performance. Meaning that since the defendant was unable to execute the contract, the plaintiffs were also discharged of their agreement to the contract. Leo and Elizabeth Facto were then entitled to recovery of their prepaid amount of $10,578 prepaid for the reception. But due to quantum mereum principles, the Factos were obligated to pay out of that money Snuffy Pantages the cost of the services that he already provided before the power outage. Okay, so I'm not sure how easy that was to follow. Kind of seems like something that would be on a TV show, but I do agree with the appellate court's decision. I think it's only fair that Mr. Pantages gets paid for the services that he already provided under the quantum mereum principle. He did provide food, drinks, staff, all kinds of bills go into even just a couple of hours. I do not, however, think that it would have been right for the Factos to have to pay for the whole reception, being that they did not get to stay for the whole reception, especially because it was Pantages' decision to evacuate. And then he did offer them a rain check. It seems like he kind of did everything he could, even by letting them stay longer than after the power went out initially. And considering this is a real case, I hope that the Factos lived and live happily ever after, because I would have been Bridezilla to the max. That sounds like